him 'cause he run and hid, but the meanest thing that he ever did was before he left, he went and named me Sue.
There we go. That's Johnny Cash and a boy named Sue. And you know that story as he tells it in the song. His dad, the meanest thing he ever did was to name him Sue. And it caused one fight after the other. Of course, if you were to name a boy Sue today, that would be a term of endearment, wouldn't it? This is the upside-down world we live in today. So it wouldn't be a problem if you name your boy Sue today or if you get your boy to wear skirts. But back in the day when we knew where we were, we knew what we were, that was a bit of a problem. Now we've got a family in Atlanta trying to name their daughter Allah. And I got to say, if they're successful in doing this, they are going to create more conflict for her in her life in the world that we live in today, in this world, than Johnny Cash would have had if he had been named Sue. Because she's going to have every Muslim gunning for her, because that's basically an affront to their religion. They do not allow people to name each other Allah in their religion. But this is a family in Atlanta, and they're going to be suing the state officials because the husband and wife are not married. They don't have the same name, and they want to give this other name as a last name to their daughter. So they said that state law says that you've got to use as a surname, as a last name, you have to use one parent or the other or a combination of those two names. That's the state law. But they don't want to do that. And, of course, they've had some very eccentric names that they came up with before they got to the surname. The first name was Zalika, Graceful, Lorena, Allah is what they want to call her. And the state says, okay, you can use all those other names, whatever, Moon Unit, Zappa, or but you can't use Allah because it has to be the mother's name or the father's name or a combination of those two names. And as I just pointed out, as a practical matter, why would you want to do that to your child? But we now see that the ACLU is going to go to bat for them and is going to get involved in these kind of sensational minutiae that the ACLU always does. The issues that we have with dragnet surveillance, with the shredding of the Constitution, all that stuff just sails over the ACLU. But whenever they find something that's sensational or something that panders to the radical left, you can bet that they'll be there in court, especially if they can make money suing Christians or suing jurisdictions because they say that you're exercising Christianity. No, we can't have that. The ACLU will always be there to fund themselves. So now they're going to get into this as they ignore the big issues and swallow the camels and strain at the gnats. We also see another interesting story here out of Winchester, Virginia. We have Virginia police arrest a guy and show this picture of this guy. He did a pretty good job of makeup in terms of turning himself into the Joker that Heath Ledger did here. Virginia police arrest a sword-wielding man who is dressed as the Joker. This was on the Drudge Report. They charged him with wearing a mask in public. That is a felony under state law. And so when I looked at that, I went, a mask? Really? It's makeup. Okay, it's not truly a mask. And the statute, however, says, this is Virginia Code 18.2-422, it shall be unlawful for any person over 16 years of age with the intent to conceal his identity, wear any mask, hood, or other device whereby a substantial portion of the face is hidden or is covered so as to conceal the identity of the wearer or to appear in a public place or upon any private property without first having obtained from the owner or tenant consent to do so in writing. Well, okay, so if we look at this raises some interesting questions because when it says it's an intent to conceal his identity, it doesn't say criminal intent, just intent to conceal. So wouldn't that include burqas? Because with a burqa, you're trying to conceal your identity, right? You don't want people to see your face. So why wouldn't that statute apply to burqas? Maybe because the statute says intent to conceal his identity. So I guess it's okay for women to conceal their identity. I don't know. I think that is his in the general sense in that statute. But I find that very interesting. I think that it should apply to a burqa and not just to makeup for somebody, no matter how bizarre that story is. No mention as to what the guy's motives were. Also, as we're looking at some other lighter news here, I'll kind of touches back again on the healthcare issue, we have a Republican Senator, Pat Roberts, who is now getting a lot of criticism because he's kind of sarcastically joked when talking about essential health benefits that he wouldn't want to lose his mammograms. He probably doesn't want to lose his maternity coverage either as a 60-plus-year-old male because the government is holding a gun to his head, forcing him to buy that, saying that that is essential health benefits. And then Congressman Judy Chu from California got on Twitter and was triggered by this and said, cancer is no joke. Mammograms save lives, the same reason we pay for prostate exams. And, of course, I'm sure women are being coerced into paying for prostate exams under Obamacare as well. But I think it's kind of interesting when we look at that because it brings up an interesting point about health care. And it's also, when we look at mammograms, we had this other article that came out over the weekend on Drudge Report about dogs being taught to detect breast cancer from a bandage that had merely touched the breast of a woman with a tumor. So these dogs, you just put this clothing on a woman who has cancer, and they can detect it with 100% reliability. Let me repeat that. 100% reliability. That is far better than the mammograms that have both a far less than 100% accuracy, generate both false positives and false negatives in terms of mammograms. And the dogs don't give you cancer like radiation can do if you have too many mammograms. So there's been a disagreement in the medical community as to not only the efficacy of the mammograms, but also the safety of the mammograms. But of course, when you have this kind of insurance coverage, everybody's getting them because, hey, it's free, and the hospitals say, we want you to have this done because it's another way that they can make money. See, that's part of the problem with health insurance, folks. Remember, it was a couple of years ago that the LA Times, I referred to this before, they ran an article, and they looked at the cost that people who were cash patients versus the cost of people who had health insurance. But they went to the same hospitals, had the same kind of procedures, and they paid their deductible. And guess what? The cash patients paid less. Now, one of the reasons for that is because they negotiated with the hospitals. But the other part of it is that they're not paying for a lot of unnecessary testing, which they will load up on you. And I got to say that not only mammograms, but it had life-altering consequences for my mother when she had a diagnostic procedure that caused her to have a stroke. It was a heart catheterization. And she didn't feel that it was necessary. And it wasn't necessary at the time. And the doctor even admitted that privately to us because we did not get into a situation where we sued him. She was advanced in age at the time. But she had that stroke while they were doing the procedure to her, blocked off the arterial flow, caused her to have a stroke. But the bottom line, folks, is that tests have consequences. Heart catheterizations have consequences. Mammograms have consequences. They're not only expensive, but you ought to think about whether you really need those things. And they don't push them on you to that extent if you are a cash patient. And I say I'm a cash patient. I'm a member of Samaritan Ministries. And, of course, there's a lot of these. There's Christian Care Medi-Share. There's Liberty, where you don't have to be a Christian. These are situations where you share each other's health care, where you have a catastrophic insurance policy to fall back on if it's like $50,000 or more, but you can then negotiate. It's a little bit of a marketplace. This is why we're talking about a repeal of Obamacare, getting rid of these mandates. And I spend so much time on this because I'm really sad to see the direction that this is taking, according to some of the headlines. The fact that Trump and Bannon are so angry about this failing that they are now starting to turn their anger on other Republicans. We don't want to have a civil war over this. That's exactly what McCain would love to see. That's what he's gloating about in the European Union when he's talking to them at Brussels. We don't want to see that happen. That's going to not only keep us from getting anything done, it will completely lock the Republicans up in fighting each other. We share the same goal. I think the strategy was flawed. I think the tactics were horrible. The fact that they were changing things up to the last minute, the fact that Paul Ryan had this bill as a secret bill. He's the guy, if you want to blame somebody, blame him. He didn't want this to pass in the first place, and it was quite obvious. We couldn't tell up to the last minute whether veterans were going to be made ineligible to receive tax credits under the revision of the plan. They wanted to rush this thing through. Nobody wanted to see that happen. And they didn't address the fundamental things at the bottom of it that were dictatorial. If you want to blame somebody, blame those tactics, those strategies. Take a look at what happened with it. Talk to the other side. Come back. You can pass this without the Democrats. The Democrats can't block it, but you can block it if you go into a civil war with other Republicans. Stay with us when we come right back. We're going to talk about North Dakota and the Second Amendment. We're also going to have Alex Jones talking to us at 6 after. He's going to give an exclusive response to the firestorm concerning his Pizzagate statement.
Why is the fungus? Why is the mold? Why is the yeast taking over? What is going on? What has changed? Dr. Group, the new product, Myco ZX, supports normal fungal and yeast balance, proprietary blend of herbs and enzymes made with high-quality ingredients.
Yeah, fungus is a growing epidemic, and I've been testing this formula and making changes to this formula for over 10 years.
It's available at InfoWarsStore.com. We also have free shipping, orders $50 or more, and 10% off when you sign up for auto ship. Additionally, on top of that, please, we only have a limited supply of this. I want to get your reviews. I want to hear what you have to say. For me, it's been incredible. Myco ZX, antifungal, anti-fungus, anti-yeast. Get it today. Limited run. It'll be months till we get more. InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, or 888-253-3139. I cannot sell something unless it helps somebody. And you can't support an organization that isn't fighting harder. Look at the response we're getting. The way we're changing the world together. You are the InfoWar. God bless you all.